Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And back for the first time, and I think a while at this point, but it's round two with Mac Movie Reviews. Max, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I think the last time it was I think it's almost been we're going in 2025. It's been about almost 3 years, I think. Maybe longer, maybe like 3 or 4 years. I've
When
known you
I,
for years now, yeah.
yeah, when I've been going back and be like, who hasn't been on a while? I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this show for over 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
This is like, I'm around episode 230 something at
Wow.
this point. Wild. This is what happens when you commit to something in COVID and then you commit to things and you just keep going. And I learned so
Yeah.
much more about people and their love of movies. And that's what we're here. But before I dive into the questions, Mac, would you like to shamelessly plug anything for the audience?
Yeah, sure. Currently, I don't know when this is gonna go out. I'm doing my 25 days MR Xmas. I review a new Christmas movie per day in December. I just did October. And people ask, how can you do that? Because I've been doing that since COVID, and it's been a nightmare of 31 nights of Halloween reviews and 25 days of Christmas. So those are fun.
Mhm.
Then I'll be having my top 10 list soon by the end of the year. Best and worst. There was a lot this year. This year was a very might say it's a little bit. This year was a little bit of a downgrade from last year, but it still has some good stuff. But there's a lot of bad stuff I can't wait to cover. I just want to give a shout out to my friend Kristen, aka Miss Flamingo, my co-host, my bestie. We're gonna be hitting 150 episodes in like almost six more episodes. We just released their
Exciting.
our Gladiator 2 review, and I did my Gladiator 2 review, and I said Gladiator 2 was an unnecessary sequel, but still good. I don't think it was the worst thing of all time, but yeah. So go check those out on my YouTube. Mac Movie Reviews, same name, how you spell it. MAC Movie Reviews.
There you go. And in the words of Denzel, I need power.
The funny thing about that was like I had heard like, oh, Denzel's just playing Denzel. So I go, okay, so it's gonna be entertaining. And I'm watching it like the only people they were popping when Denzel would just be on there. And like when I'm watching, like he's just being himself. And I bet you he'd still win an award just for playing himself in Rome. It was pretty much Training Day and American Gangster in Roman times, Denzel. I was waiting for him to bust out my man or my gladiator. He just goes to Paul Masca like, you're my gladiator, man. You're gonna help me get power. But it was still good. It was a good movie. I think it's probably one of Ridley Scott's better movies he's made the last couple years because Napoleon sucks.
My wife, my brother, and I laughed so many times watching Napoleon, and I think we were the only ones in on the joke in the whole theater because everybody else was just like silent the whole movie. I'm like, you don't think this is funny? Like this movie's weird as shit. You have to laugh at some of this.
I
But
was excited for that movie. I was disappointed.
I was excited for the House of Gucci.
Mamma
And
Mia.
Mamma Mia! And that's exactly what we got from
Oh
Jared
no.
Leto, at least.
Oh
And then
no.
Lady Gaga couldn't figure out if she was Italian or Russian. Um, but, she would have fit into Craven the Hunter, which I literally just got home from watching while we're recording this.
Listen, she's 0 for 1 for comic book film, so maybe Marvel will call her and she'll probably be like in a cameo in like an upcoming
I
movie or something.
I heard rumors they want her for Dazzler,
Why?
which it's like, didn't everybody want Taylor Swift for that?
Yes. Get the second best thing. Or they'll get Sabrina Carpenter. That's like the third option.
My vote is Dua Lipa. I want it now.
I co-sign that. I'll co-sign that.
Now we got some fantasy casting, but let's get into our actual questions. But Mac, now,
Yes.
what is a previous released film you have never seen that you're most excited to check out?
So personally, for me, whenever there's only so many movies you can see in a year because you got,
Yep.
work and personal life. But me personally, I kind of still want to watch Transformers 1. That's a movie where I was heavily wrong, apparently, because apparently it's like the best Transformer film. I liked Rise of the Beast last year, and I saw the trailer and I'm like, man, this animation looks. I like the Gen 1, but the comedy, I'm not a kid's film, and I'm seeing clips of it. I'm
Yeah.
like, damn. This is actually then Brian Tyree Henry. He's killing it as Megatron. I'm like, yo, like, but I do want to watch that. It's on Paramount Plus. It's on my list to watch it before the end of the year, and I think that that might be like the surprise hit of the year for me. And I kind of do want to watch Transformers One. I want to give it a shot because it'll be.
There
It's kind of like,
is.
yeah, it's kind of like what happened with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last year.
Mm.
That trailer was a little iffy for me, but I watched it and I loved it. And this could be the same thing with Transformers One. So, looking to get that watch soon.
There was one specific minute in
Mhm.
Transformers 1 that I think went harder than 99% of movies this year. And my jaw just dropped. I'm like, what? I'm like, I was just in awe of what was on the screen at that moment. I'm just like, I'm sold. Like, this movie got me. I am hook, line, and sinker. So I was a really big fan of Transformers 1, and I enjoyed Rise of the Beasts a decent amount. And people who are getting this weird nostalgia for Michael Bay Transformers now,
Yeah,
uh,
I don't
mm,
get that. I
no,
remember
thank you.
I'd have arguments with my cousin. He's a big Transformers fan. He hates Bumblebee. So I asked, why do you hate Bumblebee? It's like it's kind of dumb and slow. I'm like, okay, I think I'm starting to see the Babe movies are loud, brass, and everything. And then with these Bumblebees, Rise of the Beasts, they're the throwback to the because I screamed like a little girl when we found out G.I. Joe was in Rise of the Beasts. So like my dad is older. He's grew up in the '80s and everything. He's a big Transformers fan. So when we saw G.I. Joe, we were like, oh, let's go. And now I can't wait for it. And I love that this new direction that they're actually listening to the fans. And it's just nice seeing these old Gen 1 designs in live action because they look good. They
Yep.
just look better.
They better retcon it and reveal that John Cena was G.I. Joe the whole entire time
Oh, that'd be
from
awesome.
Bumblebee,
Yeah.
because I was half expecting that to happen.
Mhm.
Like, I was expecting there to be a tease at the end of Bumblebee that he was like, the name is Joe. What?
Yeah, they literally call themselves Decepticons. How do we not find that suspicious? That was funny. I like that part.
Yeah. A Bumblebee is still might be my favorite Transformers movie. I enjoyed that movie a lot. I had a lot of fun with
Same.
that. But so we talked about a film in the past, but let's look to the future. What upcoming film are you most excited for?
God, there's like this is a question I was struggling with to think about because there's a lot next year in terms of release just for everything from video games. We got GTA 5, which is gonna take over everyone's life probably near the fall. And then like with these movies, I think the most excited movie, I'm gonna go with Recency Bias because that trailer for 28 Years Later dropped today. And I'm gonna say that's probably my most anticipated film of the year because I was 7 years old when the last one came out. I'm now 25 and I want to go see this movie. And the fact that they shot this film half on iPhone 15, you got Alex Garland back as writing, Danny Boyle
Mhm.
directing. I think, everything. I know there's a rumor now with Cillian Murphy being infected. I don't believe that. Pray to God that's not it. You got a good cast in this new one and kind of just seeing like what has happened from 28 weeks to 28 years. Like, because remember the whole thing was like, oh, it's probably gonna be like 28 months. But they said, now we're gonna skip right to years. I'm like, damn, all right, cool. I guess we're gonna just time skip it. But
Yeah.
that trailer did enough to kind of keep it limited to what we have. It did what a teaser trailer should do.
Yeah.
It didn't reveal too much, but then it still left you wanting to know what's going on. And I think just for a pure horror perspective, I really like that. It's either a tie between that or Fantastic Four because if this Fantastic Four movie isn't good, then they're just cursed. They can't have a good movie. Like we've had the '90s one with Roger Corman, the
Mhm.
2000s ones in 2015, and they always come out every 10 years. So this is like maybe this is the one. We'll see. I'm mostly excited to see a real Galactus on screen, but I'm hesitant with that and even Captain America: New World Order.
We will see that Marvel could have potential really big year next year, or things could be really not great leading into Doomsday,
They
which
can get worse.
yeah, which we're getting a lot of news from about Doomsday too. That's been
Chris
coming
Evans
out
is
from
back.
Chris Evans is back. I am waiting for Chris Evans to be playing a villain too. I'm just
He's probably
waiting.
gonna be the he's probably gonna be the Hydra Captain America. That's what it's probably setting it up for. They're gonna bring back Tony Stark as Doom as a variant.
Could they possibly do this to me?
They probably will.
I'll be personally offended.
They probably will.
But we shall see. Now, we were just talking about Fantastic Four being remade how many times, and a lot of people hate remakes. But
Yes.
Mac, what's a film that you feel like should be remade?
Personally, I was just talking about this kind of like thinking about this the other day. We always talk about these live action Disney remakes, and a lot of them do suck. The only good one is the Winnie the Pooh one, which I think is really good. I've always they should remake kind of some of their other films that didn't do well. I think the one film I think could be remade, it's a live action one, is from the 70s. It's called The Black Hole. It's like their space horror movie, and it uses a lot of good matte paintings with the horror. It reminds me of Alien a lot. Alien and kind of like a mix of Star Trek and Star Wars. Very visually pleasing. The ending is really like a. Can I swear on the show? Is it cool?
Sure.
The ending is a real clusterfuck with colors and everything. It's to the point where like you think your TV is shitting its bed, but no, it's part of it. And I think if that got remade with like the what we have for technology nowadays, I think that movie would be a very good because it kind of was in that time frame when Star Wars came out. So it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this is a Star Wars clone. But I think feel like if it got remade like better today, I think we'd be fine with it.
And you could put aliens in it because Disney has that too.
Oh yeah. Well,
There you
like
go.
the vibe of it was like I remember when Alien Isolation came out, and I was like, oh, this is a good Alien game, and like they were talking about make re. It really feels like you're playing something that's taking place in that universe. I feel like that. Maybe add aliens to this, make it like kind of like you see how Romulus took off this year. I
Hmm.
may remake Black Hole. Let's remake it, put aliens in it. Let's just do it.
There you go. This is synergy, combining IPs here.
Yes.
Now, Mac, what's your fondest memory of going to the movies?
So I guess fondest memories. God, I probably you gotta think about the juxtaposition because I've never told my origin story of how I became Mac Reviews. So
Oh,
this is the movie that I'm gonna review properly, probably for one of my Flashback Fridays things. It was Max Steel. This is 2016. So I started Mac movie reviews in 2017, but leading up to it months, I'd always just been talking about movies. And I said you should start writing
mhm.
reviews, doing everything. So I was like, okay, so technically the first review I did was Monster Trucks in 2017, which that masterpiece. But Max Steel, my dad was like, "Hey, you want to go see Max Steel?" Because it was either going to be that or the Boo Medea movies. And I was like, "I'll see Max Steel. That's fine." We went to the movies, and I knew about Max Steel because the Disney XD show. I didn't know he was a toy line back in the 90s, and I watched the movie. I'm like, man, this movie sucks. Like this is like I didn't know the words. I'm not articulate. I wasn't articulate with like writing and everything like that. I was just like, man, this movie just sucks. I'm having fun laughing at it, but it's just so miserable. But my dad has always been a big help with my movie loving and everything. He has pushed it. We go to the movies every time. I don't see a new movie without him, and that was kind of like the origin of like I need to do something with this, and Max Steel was kind of the catalyst. So I gotta thank you because that's one of the rare films that has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I actually I got a fun fact. Apparently, what I read, I went through deep diving for Max Steel, just info I can find. Originally, Taylor Lautner was going to be the star of Max Steel, but he dropped out due to scheduling reasons. So in my head, I'm wondering what would have looked like if Taylor Lautner was in Max Steel.
There you go. That would be wild. I appreciate the origin story, and I I distinct like I started my channel in 2016, and my first video on here was Sausage Party.
Oh wow,
It was an interesting time then.
the good
Um,
old days.
but no, I distinctly remember that monster truck trailer over and over and over again, and just
There's
wondering
a
how
monster in the truck.
they spent like $120 million on that movie, and it made nothing.
It
So
made literally nothing, and I think they were trying to make it like into a franchise because I'm pretty sure they said that
obviously,
they were trying to greenlit a TV show on it. It just never aired because they didn't do anything.
there you go. Now, what is a film that really exceeded your expectations?
I'm like speaking of my sister. I think probably I'm gonna have to probably say Smile 2 this year because fun fact, that was me and my girlfriend's first date. So that was interesting. So one thing I pride myself on is being the first to watch a movie in my family, but my mom had beat me to watching the first Smile, and she
Hmm.
described it. The scene with the demon, she's like, the girl got on her knees and the demons crawled in her mouth. I was like, it's all enough for me because I'm like, those Smile movies are so stupid. The first one is so stupid, but it's something about it that's so stupid. So I went to Smile to like, okay, this is probably gonna suck or something, but and I was like, I skipped out to see Terrifier 3 to go see this, but I'll see this. And um, I'm watching it and I thought it was stupid, but I thought about it, I was like, you know what? It was actually better because I'm like, damn, Naomi Scott did a great job as a
Yes.
role, but I was like, this was probably better than I thought it was going to be because I thought, oh, it was going to be terrible, but it was entertaining. It was kind of scary, and the ending was pretty cool too because I knew what was going to happen at the end, but I still was just like the way they did it. I was like, okay, that's kind of ballsy, and I'm like, I
Hmm.
know they're making a third movie, but I mean, I guess, but. I still think that Smile 2 is probably a film that exceeded my expectations because I thought it was going to be trash, but it turned out to actually be very entertaining.
The first one really struggles because it's so self-serious.
Yeah.
And I feel like Smile 2 kind of had a sense of like, we could have some fun with this. And
Yes, they do.
I appreciated that about it. And it was bold, it was wild, it was bonkers. And yes, I
Did
remember watching Smile for the first time and just the mouth. And it's just like,
so wait, I gotta ask you something. Did you think so when the concept for Smile 2 came out, with the whole she's a pop star, and you at the ending, you're like, this feels like truth or dare what they might do with it if they're gonna go that route. Did you ever feel like you knew the ending before the film even came out? Like the whole concept of it.
see, I actively try to avoid coming up with my thoughts on what the movie's going to be because,
Uh
going in with those kinds of expectations are just going to ruin it for you. But when it happened, I'm like, I feel like they had to be building up to this the whole entire time because,
yeah.
like, if she's a pop star, you're like, this could happen in front of a lot of people.
Yep.
And that was wild. And I distinctly remember some like door opens and I'm like, oh my God, they're doing this. And they did. And it was glorious and it was wild. And they have potential to make this huge in a third one. But I hope they don't
Yeah.
go too big because, like, this one already made less money than the first one. And I don't think they could afford to keep up in the budget the way that they
No,
did.
they're like, listen, Paramount's gonna be like, listen, you're spending too much money. Calm down again. Follow one person. We're not following all these people.
Relax.
Yeah, stop
It's
it.
like, stop it. Just stop it right now. Now, Mac, I don't know if you're much of a reader, but what's
I
a
am.
written work you would like to see turned into a film?
A few years ago, I would have sent Fahrenheit 451, but we got that shitty movie with Michael G.B. Jordan, so I can't say that. Um, what's a written work? I know. So there's this, I'm big into climate fiction. So this is going back to my college days.
Mm.
There's this one book I love. I forgot, I'm blanking on the author's name, but the book's called Life as We Knew It. And what it's about is about this asteroid meteor shower comes and it actually hits the moon and it comes closer to Earth. And it's the way the book is written is it's written from the
Moonfall.
yeah. No, no,
Sorry, continue.
no, this is better than Moonfall, I swear. Oh God, not Moonfall. So The meteor brings the moon closer to the Earth, but the way that the story is written is that it's written from this girl's perspective, like her diary. So
Yeah.
it chronicles like the beginning, like what her life is like, and then the night of it happens and what happens afterwards. And it's actually spawned into like a book series in different parts of the world. So I'm kind of
Interesting.
surprised we've never that would have fit perfectly into the young adult genre back in the day.
Mhm.
Like I think that would have been a perfect movie to kind of do this fucking Moonfall. Do like a Moonfall type movie, but it would have been better. And I don't know why no one has really thought about making this a movie. And I'm gonna do a twofer here real quick. Another book that I love personally. It's a personal story. It's called An Invisible Thread, and it's about story of this author, how she met this boy in the 80s. She was like this upper class white woman. This is impoverished black kid in the 80s, and it's a very heartfelt story, and it kind of has the makings of being like an Oscar film if you get the right casting for it. So I'm surprised they haven't touched that, but I'd probably say that and Life is Renewal would make for good movies.
Very interesting. I am sold on teenage girl diary about the moon attacking us.
It wor-
Um,
it works. It
it
just works.
works. Can you? It's like this is going to be the secret adaptation of Legend of Zelda: The Majora's Mask.
You're not the first person to make that joke when I talked about this book too, because that's someone else said that too. So I'm like, it's a good book. Like it does get a little like it makes you think a lot because you're like, damn, like this actually like hits you at home a little bit. And it's like it's a really good book. The audiobook will kind of mess you up a little bit because I did teary eyed. I'm like, damn.
It sounds like a really interesting experience, and yes, of course, I had to make a Majora's Mask reference because I did grow up in the 90s, to the 2000s. Now, we talked about the 28 years later trailer, and trailers could go a long way in ruining or really building up somebody's expectations. But Mac, what's your favorite movie trailer?
God, it's hard because I say it's a tie between two. So I'm gonna
Okay.
go from chronological order. The first one is gonna be the Cars 3 teaser trailer from 2017 when we all got bamboozled thinking it was gonna be a dark interpretation because it was grayed out. It's like McQueen is fading, and he's just like flipping. I still think
That went hard,
that was the
way harder.
that was the best like teaser trailer because it's like damn because honestly I don't think well okay maybe Cars 2 is bad. I think Cars 1 and 3 are actually really good entertaining, and I think with Cars 3 if they kept that tone with it being like the Rocky story with them being old in that tone of trailer. And it was crazy because we had just gotten the Logan trailer too, so everyone was like oh it's the Logan movie. I'm like damn. So I'm like okay cool, but that trailer's I still watch it. I'm like damn it's and then the ending's like everything will change summer 2017. I'm like okay. And then the second trailer, it would have to be the teaser trailer for Batman because we were all like, man, Robert Pattinson as Batman, this is gonna be so dumb. And then that first DC fandom trailer they dropped with like only 20% of the film shot. And like that something in the way.
Yeah.
And it's like the ending shot is like the jokes are like, oh, he's emo. Is like, you're part of this too. He's like, how am I part of this? You'll see. I'm like, okay, that trailer is probably one of my all time favorite like comic book trailers because it was like everyone's like, oh my god, like what's this movie gonna be? And you know,
Well, when you see him in one of the trailers beat the shit out of that guy, he's like, I'm vengeance.
yeah,
And you're just like,
I was
I'm
like, yep,
like,
I
oh
want more of this,
man.
please. Yes,
And then just the Batman march with him walking out of the flames upside down at the end of that trailer. And I'm just like, I was so ready for that movie. It's
same.
also funny that you brought up. I can you imagine if Hurt by Johnny Cash just started playing that Cars 3 trailer? I
Oh
hurt
no.
myself
It could have
today.
worked. Like
Yes.
we all thought, okay, Cars is gonna be dark because they're like Pixar has never done a teaser trailer like that. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, this just seems very like out of place. This is it kind
Mhm.
of seems like a NASCAR documentary. Like, oh, like this famous racer fell off. It has this horrific crash, and I'm just like, nope, it's straight lighthearted for next trailer. Like, thanks, you ruined it after the first. If they had just released that teaser trailer and it did nothing else in that film, I think everyone would have went into that, but it probably people would have hated it because they're like, this is nothing like the movie.
Oh, that Logan trailer though
Oh,
with
it's great.
Hurt. it's so funny because I made a joke about how I definitely have to reference Johnny Cash in my Craven the Hunter review. When the man comes around.
They repeat
I'm
that like
like,
8 times in the trailer, I swear.
I'm so glad I don't have to watch that trailer anymore. Uh, we're past it. Now, my next two questions have to do with music and movies. Now,
Okay.
Mac, what's your favorite use of a song in a movie?
I think my favorite use of a song in a movie, it would have to be I guess I just watched it, and this song has become a meme of itself because of this movie. I'm gonna go with Kingsman, Freebird from the church. He's like, yeah, 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 yeah. I was like, this, and then that song has been run into the ground just from that scene alone. And I'm like, it's a good scene, and I love that song, but I'm like, I'm so sick of that song. Be like, whenever there's a fight scene, everyone's gonna start to fight. That's the usually the and then it just starts. I'm like, damn, all right, thanks, Kingsman. I love you, but you've ruined Freebird for me.
That was a wild scene. I remember seeing Kingsman in the theater for the first time and just being like, what the hell is going on here?
Well, you,
And
you didn't you didn't know what was gonna happen, and you're like, huh? And then like as the scene's going, you're like, wait, are they gonna do that? And he just pulls out a gun, and you're like, oh shit, okay.
it was wild, wild, wild. And then they brought him back in the dumbest freaking way possible, but whatever.
Golden
But
Circle
whatever.
is Golden
Um,
Circle is a very Kingsman is the one series where I like the first and third movie. The second one I just don't talk about.
the second one felt like an 80s James Bond movie,
Yeah,
and not in a good way.
God no.
Like it feels like it made all the mistakes of those Roger Moore era 80s movies. Um, ugh. But thinking about scores, obviously
Yep.
music could do a big thing in terms of the experience of watching a film. If you're going to sit down and have to listen to a score, which score are you going to listen to?
God, I'm probably gonna have to maybe because it's recency bias. The new Indiana Jones game just came out for Xbox,
Hmm.
and I went back and I listened to the Indiana Jones score, and I'm like, damn, that bombastic of like dun 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 dun. Dun. I was like, I probably have to do that because it's that nice sense of adventure and kind of like that 80s nostalgia of just like
Hmm.
classic Hollywood movie, and I probably have to say the Indiana Jones score.
Oh, the Raiders March. It
Yes, perfect.
chef's
Chef's
kiss.
kiss.
Just watching Last Crusade and seeing them ride off into the sunset to that is just one of the most amazing things. Just period.
And
Period.
nothing ever happened ever again. There was no other movies that came out. It actually, I
They
saw an
rode
article.
off into the sunset and lived happily ever after.
I saw an article. James Mangold was so confused on why he thought that the reception to Dial of Destiny was too harsh because he said he was making a movie about a guy in his 80s doing on adventures, but then people wanted something else. And I'm going like, the problem is that you're making an Indiana Jones movie, and we expected more from you because you're the Logan guy. But then we know who was helping you write this, who was happened to be the co-star, I mean, unlikable character in the movie, and then the movie makes no sense. You waste Mads Mikkelsen as a villain. You have this uncanny CGI Indiana Jones, and if that's the last Indiana Jones movie, I'm okay with it. I kind of just I don't count that. Like I would like that's the film that I think made everyone realize, Crystal Skull wasn't that bad. Like we want Shia LaBeouf back.
I don't want you. I all I wanted was more Sean Connery, and we couldn't get that.
No,
Because by the time Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, he was long retired.
yeah, he's
He
like I
was
ain't
like
doing this.
he was like F you Hollywood, I'm never coming back.
My hero.
I'm living in my villa in the Mediterranean. Because he also wouldn't go back to Scotland until Scotland was free.
Nice.
Sean Connery had some strong feelings for a man that was rich enough to have a villa in Italy. It's like, I'm never going back to Scotland. But okay. Now, Mac, my last question for you is, what's one thing that you wish movies would just stop doing?
The classic cliches and tropes question.
The what really grinds my gears.
You know what really grinds my gear? I wish, for love of God, I wish movies, whenever I watch like an action movie, like I wish that the we didn't get a forced love interest or like a love triangle. I'm so sick of love triangles because I always look at some stuff as common sense of like, man, it could be simple as just talking to someone. It's like, no, you saw this person hugging. Or can we get rid of the cliche of if there's a sequel to a movie and the characters get together in the first movie, in the next movie, there's like an old flame that comes back that's like a femme fatale, and it's like, oh, because they did that in Uncharted 2. I know it's a video game, but it's the same thing. Uh, um
Maybe they're
Drake.
gonna do that for Uncharted 2, the movie, when that eventually
Oh
comes
no,
out.
I fucking hate Uncharted so much, but I hate when they bring in like a brand new female character and it's like, oh yeah, me and her used to date and it doesn't I don't have feelings for her now because I'm with you, but then throughout the movie you'll see that they're like, oh yeah, but it turns out that like she's either evil or she's like, I didn't want to hurt you. I still cared about you, but you found someone better than me. And it's like I hate that. And I'll add another one. I always hate it in any movie. They always have to have, if it was a duo cop movie or a duo like action movie, they always have to have the all is lost moment because they have a falling out and then they have to go and find each other. I think the one movie that did that well was The Other Guys with Will Ferrell. He's like, Gator needs his gat, bitch. And it's like he had to go back to convince Mark Wahlberg. He's like, he pretty much is like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this on my own. So it's like, you need to come with me. That's the one time it did the partner break up well, but other times I'm just sick of it because it's like, I care about you, or they open about like, hey, there's something that happened with me. I can't really trust you. So I get rid of the love triangle, especially the sequel, and then the duo buddy comedy action movie breakup stuff.
You know why John Wick's so great? John Wick
Well,
didn't need a love interest. He
no,
lost his wife, and that's all he wanted. And that's all that mattered to him. And he just saw other very talented, deadly women and just thought, wow, I respect you for the weapon of mass destruction that you are. And I will not flirt with you, Halle Berry. And was perfectly fine. Because, action stars can just be friends. So
yes.
we don't have to force love stories.
So in an alternate timeline, you're telling me that he's gonna get with the ballerina Ana de Armas in the next movie?
If she better not have a love interest either. Just it that would be the worst. If they're like, well, we got through all these John Wick movies and didn't force him into a love and into a new relationship, but the second we make it a female lead, well, she's gotta have a man. So hopefully
I
not.
It just works like it shouldn't work like that. You don't need a love interest in every single one of your movies. Like it
No.
just like because imagine if you add a love interest in like Hot Fuzz.
There's enough bromance there that we do not need a love
Exactly.
interest. That's the love interest. It's the two of them. That's what this is about, and what it's always been about. But
Agree.
no, God, I love the other guys so much. And
Same.
yes, you have that whole entire thing where like Alan's off hiding out and going full gator. And Mark Wahlberg tries to get his Terry tries to get his girlfriend back and does the
Oh
dancing.
yeah. He's like, you're out here stripping for money. It's like, oh, I think we've all learned a little bit something. I literally just watched it the other night, and I think the genius of that movie is just because like I think The Rock is Samuel Jack. That's probably The Rock's best role. And it's like I remember the joke with them like aim for the bushes, and you're like, oh, they're gonna jump. It's literally they just jumped off the building, and Ice-T's like, I don't know what they were thinking, but it was badass. I was like, what the? And then,
And then the next scene where they're at the funeral, like the wake, and they're all whispering, it's like there wasn't even like an awning. Like
yeah.
dude,
I think another funny joke with that was Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton stole that movie because he just kept. I always thought like, okay, that had to be on purpose. That he knew who TLC was, and he just kept quoting it. Just he's like, don't go chasing waterfalls. Like, oh come on, that's TLC. He's like, I don't want no scrubs. It's like what? It's like What made it funny was like, I'm working at Bed Bath and Beyond and to support my son through school. He just cut to him at Bed Bath and Beyond. He's so much happier there's a cop. And like my favorite dialogue, he's like, hey, we got the new bath mats. Like, there's a rapist over in Pittsfield Park. Like, oh, sorry, it's from my other job. So don't worry about it. Unless you live over there in walk in Paris. I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Uh,
Oh, I love that movie so much. That
Same.
might be one of the most quotable movies and the funniest movies to me ever created. We will have sex in your
You're
Prius
good?
again.
Yeah. Sign dirty.
Dirty
Are you dirty
Mike,
Mike and the boys?
thanks for the F shack.
It's like Jesus Christ. I think like dude, would that ever need a sequel? Because I know people are saying that they might do a sequel, but I don't feel like it needs a sequel.
God, if they do, it better be funny. That's all I gotta say.
Because they've
Oh
been saying
man.
that's getting a sequel, and then Step Brothers is getting a sequel.
Well, they'd have to make up first. Because Adam McKay
Oh
and
yeah,
Will
that's
Ferrell are
right.
not friends right now.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They had a big falling out. I heard it was part of it was over winning season.
Really?
The Yeah, because Will Ferrell wanted to be Jerry Buss
Oh God, that would have been bad. That would not have been good. I think John C. Riley was better.
because John C. Riley's a better actor than Will Ferrell
He kind of
is.
is, yeah.
And Adam McKay made the right choice. But whatever. Whatever, Will Ferrell. We love you anyway.
Yeah.
But those are all my questions, Mac. And how I always like to wrap up my shows, I have my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Well, speaking of, I mentioned Hot Fuzz.
Okay,
I gotta ask you, out of how would you rank the Cornetto trilogy from Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and The World's End?
this is going to be controversial. Um, my favorite's The World's End,
Thank
and
you.
and I like the maturity of it.
Hmm.
I like the aging challenge storyline of that all.
Yeah.
I love the longing for like the good old times story. And also just a huge sci-fi fan. And that is such a great adaptation of Invasion of the Body
Yes.
Snatchers. And just there's so many like random one of my favorite uses of a song ever is that out whiskey bar, the
Yeah.
Alabama song by the
Mhm.
Doors. And the whole fight in the bathroom, amazing. Bill Nye
Yeah.
as the giant supercomputer at the end of the movie, and he's just like, "Oh,
Fuck it.
well, just get
Fuck
the hell
it.
out of here." Just, I just, and the five of them are so good together.
Mhm.
Like that crew of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Patty Considine, Martin Freeman, and Eddie Marson is just chef's kiss.
I love it.
Um, and then Hot Fuzz is a close second because God, I love action movies. This is an amazing send up and also amazing action movie itself.
Yes.
I love how it not only combines great action movies, but also folk horror movies. Because
Yep.
this is totally just like The Wicker Man, except with guns.
Yes.
And the whole the greater good.
The grades are good.
And the cast is insane. Like just look at the police, Jim Broadbent, Simon Pegg. Also, just in the beginning with Martin Freeman, Steve Coogan, and Bill
You're
Nye,
like,
the three of them, and just Patty Considine, Rafe Spall, um, freaking Olivia Colman.
yeah, I was
Is
gonna like,
one of the
damn.
police officers, and then all the character act like Timothy Dalton in that
My favorite character.
I'm the slasher of prices. The mustache is just, oh my God.
He was-
Everything about that movie is so damn good. And then like Shaun of the Dead's great too. It's the challenging thing, but that's how I would rank it. And I think it also has to do with what genres you like the most. Because like if I had to pick out of the three of them, horror is my least favorite.
yeah.
And it so happens that it's like sci-fi is my favorite, and then action, and then horror. But Shaun of the Dead's great too, and just I think that's the freshest because like that was like Edgar Wright doing that for the first time, where it's like he gave away the whole entire plot within the first 10 minutes of the movie. You just didn't realize it. Um, where it's just like having a we'll take a Bloody Mary
Yep.
and just and then we'll head to the Winchester and wait for it all to blow over.
That's that's one thing I love about the Edgar Wright movies is that, especially with that trilogy, is that the writing is so tight, and if you, it
Hmm.
really is like if you pay attention, they will give you the whole. Because doing the World's End too. Because even when he was going through the
So
beginning of the movie, he was saying like exactly what happened that night would go on to happen in the
it's
movie.
exactly what happened. Their golden mile when they were teenagers literally happens in the first movie. And it's just like, huh.
It's smart. It's smart, and
It's so smart.
they're so funny. The Shaun of the Dead has all three of them are quotable. And like Shaun of the
Mhm.
Dead, my favorite line was, what was it? It was when what was, oh, it was when they Pete was upstairs, he was dead. He's like, "All right, dickhead." And then in Hot Fuzz, my favorite running joke in Hot Fuzz is that Olivia Colman would just say like the most raunchiest thing, and the cops like tits. And then with The World's End, I think I love my favorite scene was when Rosewood Pike said, "Let's climb down the drain pipe." He's like, "I got a better idea." He just like tried to Simon Pike just trying to jump off, and he just like climbed down the drain pipe. But actually, with Bill Nighy, one of the funniest thing about it was that his roles got smaller and smaller. Like Shaun
Yeah.
of the Dead, he was a main character.
He had like a legit role in the first one. And then he literally just pops in. Also, just the people they get to wind up randomly being in the movie, like Kate Blanchett
Yeah.
being his ex.
And Peter Jackson was Santa that stabbed him in the second
Yeah.
one. I was like, what? How did I get him for that? But I do agree with you with World's End because it is very like a mature, like
Mhm.
reflection movie. And you kind of feel that's the most in depth with characters. Like each movie does is a character piece on
Yeah.
different them. And it was kind of weird to see Simon Pegg kind of playing like the slacker comedy guy, and Nick Frost being the straight
The
man.
straight man. Yep. That
Um,
that was refreshing and it was interesting. And I think I felt the most out of any of those is when you finally see
yep.
and you're just like,
And even the delivery when he said they told me when to go to bed, you're like, damn, like that's, and the what was the that was part of World's End where the guy pulled Andy in the room. He's like, "Oh, don't ask me what happens to the empties." He's like, "What happens to him?" "I told you not to ask me that." It's like it's bad. Then at the end, it's like it's Basil. Shh. And what about the empties? "I told you not to ask him that." And then don't
damn.
forget the fence joke in all three movies. The third in World's End was the funniest execution. Well, actually, no. Hot Fuzz was funnier because Nick Frost just full on just went through the fence. But the third one's funny because I didn't see World's End in the theater. That's my one regret. I wish I saw any of these in theaters. When you see the fence, you're like, oh, cool, 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 and the whole thing just comes down. It's like, oh no.
That World's End was the only one I did see in a theater. I
Oh
remember when
man.
that came out, and I was so excited about that. And I just those movies are so great. And like, what's Edgar Wright doing right now?
The Running Man with Glenn Powell.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting to see how much more like the Stephen King novel this is versus the
Oh yeah, I don't
crazy
know.
80s like
So
Arnold Schwarzenegger version.
if if you wanted that, they've always said like Simon Pegg, they've always said they want to do another movie together. What would you think they could do? Like they've done sci-fi, they've done action, and then they've done horror. Like what's a genre they can tackle in that style? Because I feel like the trilogy was set. Or could you see
It's
them
like
just doing something else again?
so you got fantasy, you have western, you have a period drama.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think which one I would want the most. I think like I would probably want a western the most. That would be crazy. It would be wild, and I want it. Like I
What was
want
that?
that.
They kind of hinted at that at the end of World's End, with that kind of being like the
It
Western.
is it is actually a post-apocalyptic Western, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that could work. I wouldn't mind that, but I'm curious to see what they're gonna do next for it, because I think I was really surprised that Edgar Wright didn't have more. But because one of my favorite movies is Attack the Block from
Mm,
2011 with John Boyega. I'm surprised that that's something they. I wouldn't be surprised if he got that idea for World's End from that movie, because it's like kind of similar to what we got in the World's End.
mhm. That Joe Cornish did that one, right?
Yeah.
That's such a great movie.
Hmm.
That's such a great movie. And they're coming back to that, aren't they?
I think
I
that's what they
think.
said. They might do
Yeah,
a sequel, or yeah, I think they said they're gonna do a sequel.
interesting. Years later.
Yeah.
Um post Star Wars John Boyega. Um I just I think the end of the world's end is one of the most frustrating teases of a movie I'm never gonna get
Yep.
ever. Because I'm like, I would pay to watch that movie. The where it's all post-apocalyptic and stuff like that. Like, I want to see that movie. I The only time I think I was even more frustrated was at the end of Ash versus Evil Dead, where they teased a crazy post-apocalyptic Mad Max Evil Dead movie. I'm like, and you're not going to give this to us?
No, I mean, hey,
That's all we're going to get?
Evil Dead Rise made money. It did well, so maybe we can get that in the future.
Who I would be there opening night, ready to go. But Mac,
Yeah.
thank you so
Yes.
much for coming on and chatting movies
Anytime.
with me.
I love it.
And make sure to go check out all of Mac's stuff. I'll make sure to have some links and everything in the description on this video. But most importantly, thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.